Welcome to See You on the Other Side, where the world of the mysterious collides with the world of entertainment. A discussion of art, music, movies, spirituality, the weird, and self-discovery. And now, your hosts, musicians and entertainers who have their own weakness for the weird, Mike and Wendy from the band Sunspot.
Welcome back, Mike.
Thank you, Wendy. It's good.
How was your trip?
It was really good. It was exciting and it was fun, and got to do some fun stuff when I was in California this past weekend. And it's always a pleasure. It's always a pleasure to go see weird spots in different locales.
For those who don't know, why don't you explain where and why you were out there?
The International Music Software Trade Association did a little festival on Saturday, and I was hosting a songwriting contest judging panel.
And that was in line with the ASCAP Music Expo, correct?
No, this was for something different.
I'm sorry. Yeah, that was like 2 weeks ago.
Yeah,
my bad.
That's all right. So no, but I had to help judge that panel, and that was fun because there's some cool people at that
Mike,
conference.
Don't judge.
I had to judge because there were prizes. Somebody's gonna win a trip to Greece.
What?
From that, yeah. Like there's this songwriting camp in Greece at this place called Black Rock Studios. And so the IMSTA, the Software Trade Association. No, we don't qualify.
A songwriting camp in Greece? That sounds amazing.
I know it sounds great, but unfortunately we can't enter because I'm part of the company that sponsors the contest. But the judges, we had some cool judges. We had some talented people. You remember Margaret McClure? You met her?
I do, yeah.
She was one of the judges.
Cool.
And then also
awesome.
A guy named DJ Khalil, who does he produces a whole bunch of beats and songs for guys like Eminem and Dr. Dre and things like that. So he had a nice diverse panel of interesting people.
Cool.
And no, it was fun. So that was a cool event, and that was on Saturday, and that meant that I could spend some of the other time checking out some of the weird stuff in California, and there is a lot of weird stuff in California.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I mean, I've heard that before, but haven't seen it with my own eyes. So
yeah.
So we're going to talk today about a few of the historical and haunted places that are out in Hollywood.
Yeah. I mean, I thought today would be good to talk about the ghosts of Hollywood Boulevard.
Cool.
So that kind of central stretch.
Okay.
Would be fun to talk about. And so I was reading some stuff when I was looking for haunted places and weird things. And one article said that for their money, they would bet that Hollywood Boulevard has the most ghosts per square mile of anywhere in Los Angeles.
Wow. Well, okay, in Los Angeles, but I mean, yeah, LA is a pretty big city. Yeah, it's one of the biggest.
There's a lot of people there.
Okay.
So I thought it'd be just great to walk down the street and talk about some of the things I was seeing as I was walking past the places and talk about the ghost stories and stuff like that. So,
ooh, a little audio.
Yeah.
What is that called?
Like a travelogue.
Yeah, travelogue. Okay, cool.
A travelogue. And I also wanted to scope it out because I do a 20-mile run on Sunday when I was there.
20 miles? Are you insane?
Yeah. No, I'm training. The Minneapolis Marathon is in a week and a half.
Oh my gosh, everybody, if you hear this, in a week and a half, Mike's going to be running an insane amount of miles. If you want to wish him luck, you can send him a tweet at Sunspot Mike.
Yes, please do. Please do.
You can let him know how totally insane he is for doing this.
I'll be the guy talking about how my legs aren't working.
No, that's great. I respect it because I can't do it. And I find it very amazing for people to have that kind of willpower and dedication to the training and everything that goes into it. So.
Well, Wendy, you can do it. All you got to do is do the miles.
That's the problem.
That really is. Well, I started training actually a 6-week training program for this. So this is the shortest I've ever trained for a marathon.
But you're a marathon vet, though, Mike.
I've done 2.
Done them before.
But I've done like 12 to 16 weeks of training beforehand.
Mm-hmm.
So this was a 12-week program that I found online. There's actually a coach at UCLA that was like, they call it the "It's Not Too Late" program. And so I thought I'd give it a try. and it was exactly 6 weeks to the Minneapolis Marathon when I decided to start. So I was like, hey, let's do it. Let's start the summer off with some physical fitness.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
very exciting. Well, congratulations.
Working on my fitness.
The fact that you ran 20 miles when you were in LA, like when you were, out there for work and you had other things going on. I mean, that's pretty amazing. 20 miles is a long distance. You could get from like one side of Madison to the other.
Well, 20 miles you could get from my apartment on the west side of Madison. If I run all the way down past Willie Street to like Old Brick Park and back, that's 20 miles.
So for those who don't know Madison, basically what I just said, which was you could get from one side of Madison to the other. You can get from the west side to the east side.
Yeah.
Okay. So 20 miles, pretty impressive.
That was fun. That was a fun thing. And I ran down Hollywood and I ran on Sunset Boulevard. And
cool.
All that, past all the tourists and all the excitement. And it was a good time.
And I bet the weather was nicer for running there because like last night I had to bring my plants in. I had my little potted flowers outside and there was like a frost warning that,
Oh, it was cold, huh?
All the things might die if you don't bring them in. So I had to haul everything into the garage and keep it safe.
Well, it was hot during the day, but then it was chilly at night.
Desert.
Yep, that is the desert. And so I had to wear a jacket when I went out at night. Anyway, it was fun.
Good.
Los Angeles is always a good time. And it was a cool thing. And so, when I was thinking about things that we could do for the podcast this week, and when I read that this particular area that I was standing in had the most ghosts per capita, I figured we should talk about some of that. And maybe so that anybody who's planning on going to visit Hollywood anytime soon might want to take a listen and, visit some of these places themselves. Maybe go more in depth. Maybe bring one of those like ghost boxes or e-meters or whatever.
Sure, yeah. Okay, cool.
For their own little investigation.
Yeah. So you did a little recording of yourself talking at these places, and we're going to share that with everybody. So we're gonna go through a few of the sites, well, several of the sites actually, and it'll be sort of a little guide through Hollywood.
Yeah, and we even get to the seedy side of Hollywood too. So
wait, there's a side that isn't seedy?
Yes, no, I mean there's a side. Okay. So when you think about that area, if you ever watch Jimmy Kimmel Live, or anybody that watches Jimmy Kimmel Live, when they go out and they start talking to people on the street, they're talking to people on Hollywood Boulevard. They're talking to the tourists because there's always a million tourists. One time I went out there and there was a busload of like Korean Christians who had just come to preach to people. And they were sitting there saying, Jesus loves you, and like signs and doing the whole thing. and I saw a couple of preachers. There were some preachers there on Friday night. So
always.
Yeah. So if you want to, to get that,
and then the TMZ bus rolls by, and everybody trying to get pictures of like the famous people.
Right. And I didn't have too many famous sightings, at least not when I was walking doing the podcast, because that would be the first thing I would do is I would attack some celebrity and be like, have you ever seen a ghost? That'd be, that's all I'd care about. It's like, oh, I loved you and have you ever seen a ghost? And that would be the movie that I'd be interested in them seeing,
Yes. Well, I mean, when you're in LA, there's a very high likelihood of seeing a celebrity. In fact, last time the two of us were there together, we saw William Hurt.
Yes, we did see William Hurt.
I didn't ask him if he had seen a ghost, so maybe next time.
Yes, and we saw him right after we went to the Santa Monica Pier, which has its own ghost story.
That's right.
And we'll have to save that for a different time when we talk about the ghosts of Malibu.
All right. Well, why don't we get into it? I mean, there's a lot of stuff here for everybody to hear. So
okay. To kind of set this up,
first stop on your.
I was walking down. I went down to Hollywood and Vine, which is a very famous cross street.
Okay.
And I talk about one of the ghost stories that's happening in Hollywood and Vine. Why don't we take a listen?
Okay. Here we go.
And here is where we start our Ghosts of Hollywood Boulevard on Hollywood and Vine, a famous corner. Also, C.C. DeVille from Poison made a great song here in his band called Samantha 7 called Hollywood and Vine. But it's still in the theater, and Still an interesting place. But the ghost that's supposed to roam this area is Lon Chaney, the man of 1,000 faces from the silent era and Phantom of the Opera. His son would go on to play the Wolfman most famously. And they say that Lon Chaney sat at these bus benches and waited for the buses to take him to various auditions that never really worked out. So in death, he still sits at the bus benches. But right now I'm at the corner watching a million cars go by, and there is no one interesting at these bus benches. Just to let you know.
Mike, it sounds like you're in the middle of the Fast and the Furious.
I am. No, there's cars flying by and stuff. I was looking at the bus benches. I was hoping to even see an interesting homeless guy or something like that.
Oh, goodness.
But there, no, not at that point.
Yeah, well, I would imagine that, although I don't doubt there are sightings. I mean, I've been to Hollywood Boulevard, and it's there's so much commotion and things going on that I would think that, to catch something like that outside of all the other distractions would be kind of a challenge.
Yes, I think so. And it would have to be, you'd have to be paying attention for somebody just hanging out at the bench, just waiting around for, and never getting on the bus and looking like he's wearing, clothing from the 1920s and then also disappearing. Like, that would be the thing. Like, you see a guy, the bus...
To pay that close of attention.
Yeah. So, no, but that was a fun little thing. I was like, oh, Lon Chaney and Lon Chaney Jr., the Wolfman, Lon Chaney, the Phantom of the Opera. He would legendarily, like, he wouldn't use that many makeup effects and stuff. They said that he could achieve these horrific faces just through...
That's impressive.
Like, little things he would do to himself and his jaw and things he'd put in his mouth and stuff like that. So, cool. And he still hangs around Hollywood and Vine today. And so right up the street from that is our next ghost story. And we can talk about some more stories from that, but let's do the introduction. Let's play it right now and let's see what are my thoughts as I'm looking at it.
So wait, where's the place?
Oh, this is the Pantages Theater.
Oh, okay. All right. Here we go. Let's take a listen.
Okay.
And our second Hollywood and Vine ghost is Howard Hughes. That's right, the guy that Leonardo DiCaprio played in The Aviator. And the Pantages is a theater that he built and hosted the Academy Awards. And Howard Hughes is reputed to still hang out inside the theater. And theaters are always great for haunted stuff. Because of the actors that had gone in there, the people that work there, the blood, sweat, and tears that all come out of the people who give their lives for their art. But Howard Hughes, interesting guy, crazy. But this is the place where he still roams the aisles of the theater, even in his death.
Whoa.
Yeah, and I think there's a couple more ghost stories that I looked up afterwards.
Okay.
And one is about a female presence also calls the theater home. Mm. And this is from the Encyclopedia Britannica, actually, has a whole haunted Hollywood section. And I'll just say it. Back in 1932, a female patron died in the mezzanine during a show. After some time passed, when the auditorium was dark and quiet, the voice of a woman could be heard singing, sometimes in the day, other times late at night after everyone had gone home. So employees at the theater developed a theory about it, that the unfortunate young woman who died in the theater may have been an aspiring singer who'd come to see one of the musicals so popular in the 1930s. And that when she died there, she's living out her dream at performing at the theater by singing in her death.
That's really cool, but it's incredibly sad at the same time.
Yeah, but that's, I think the entire story of the Dream Factory, that is Hollywood, there's a lot of sad stories, sad, exploited people.
Right.
Dreams that never came true. People that left their homes, left their families just to go fail.
That's terrible.
Yeah, that sounds horrible. I'm just like, just like to go fail, And also,
But just the idea of someone who had that huge dream and never even had the chance to like really attempt. Like she was there, getting inspired. Like how many times have we gone to concerts and seen musicians and been like, oh, this is amazing. And
right, I want to see that. I want to be just like that. And then, let's say you died at that show, and then you're stuck at some theater just singing for nobody.
And hopefully it was a good show at least.
Right. She didn't see some crap matinee.
Also, I don't know why that makes me really depressed, but okay.
There's another good story though, that there was a wardrobe lady who got lost in the theater when it was all dark, and as she was fumbling towards the exits, she was thrown into complete darkness, and somebody grabbed her elbow, helped her up, and then guided her towards the door. And once she opened the door and let some light in, she saw that there was nobody there.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay, thank you. First of all, thank you for making that a nice ghost story.
That's going to happen in your home tonight, Wendy.
I'm not going to get lost in here.
I know. I'm just saying. I'm just trying to scare you.
I mean, when you first started telling the story, like I'm just imagining being in a theater in the dark, lost. Can you think of anything so scary? Like theaters are really scary, and
yeah, especially when they're old and stuff.
So I was like, okay, I don't like where this is going. But then the fact that the ghost was nice and friendly and helped, that made me happy.
Right.
Even though it's also creepy at the end when they realize like nobody's there and it is an actual ghost. But at least it's a friendly presence that's there to, guide and be kind. And
I guess I'd be a lot more scared if it was a porn theater. Like slipping and falling. You're like,
Mike.
Oh no, whatever I've done to get myself to this point in my life, I've lost.
But the thing is, theaters are easy to get lost in. I mean, remember that time? Okay, the Overture Center in Madison.
Mm-hmm. When we were looking for a way to get to the stage.
It was like Spinal Tap, like the passageways and chambers underneath there. I had no idea. It's like a whole world under there. It's like an ant farm.
Yeah, we just kept on walking around, and like one of these, like the stage is this way, right?
And you take one turn and you're like, oh, whoops, I'm in a changing room and somebody's, like half naked getting ready with some weird costume. And then you're like, oop, back out and go the next way. And then you take a right turn and then there's somebody like tuning up their instrument. It's like, how many little weird rooms are there in this place? And I mean, we had lighting, we had the advantage of lighting. So just imagining trying to like navigate in the dark. And you're probably like scared and your heart's beating really fast already. And then suddenly, you feel a hand that grabs you and starts to guide you. And
at least it's a nice hand though.
No, I mean, I think that's great.
It's a hand of friendship.
The assumption would be that it's a person. And then when you realize afterwards there's no one there, then it's a little, I mean, it makes the spine tingle a bit, but it's still pretty awesome that there's a presence of whatever kind that is kind and helpful, like there for you.
Yeah, so that's all right. So I mean that may have been Howard Hughes himself trying to help somebody out, and it could have been. I mean, the thing is, then you turn around and it's Leonardo DiCaprio taking you out, and he's like, "I remember you loved me. I remember you thought I was so cute in Titanic," and he just gives you a little peck in the cheek and says, "You're
the king of the world."
Right. You're like, remember when I was a heartthrob, ladies?
No. This is not about Leonardo DiCaprio.
Not yet. He's still alive.
Hollywood, old Hollywood. Okay,
right.
So that's a cool story.
So that was a fun thing, and so I was just walking around. I was wandering around outside of it, and then you have to wander down a little bit of ways to get to the next stop, which is at Hollywood and Highland. And so that is Hollywood and Highland is where the Kodak Theater was. That's where they used to have the Academy Awards. That it's where Lowe's Hotel with the used to be the Renaissance Hotel.
And a big shopping mall.
Yeah, it's a big shopping mall with all the Egyptian stuff.
Yeah, it's really kind of weird, but cool.
Yeah, no, it's totally cool. And I
did some shopping there when we were there last time.
Yeah, no, I bought a belt at the Hot Topic last time I was.
I got a dress at that Hot Topic.
Yeah, and then that belt, I tried to return it to the Hot Topic in Madison because like it was a studded belt, one of the studs came off, and the girl at the Hot Topic in Madison wouldn't take it, and she's like 15 or whatever, and she's like, well, we don't even know you bought it at Hot Topic. I'm like,
It's way too California for here.
I'm like, it says Hot Topic on the belt, like I bought it like last week. Anyway,
Mike, it was clearly not a Wisconsin style, okay?
I guess
don't blame the girl at Hot Topic. It's okay.
Fair enough. But anyway.
But that mall is cool. That mall is great because it's half outdoors, and you can have outdoor malls when you're in a climate that allows for sunshine all the time. And
when you don't have winter, it's like when you're watching like shows about like high schools and stuff, and you're seeing like all these people walk around outside, like all these high schoolers walk around outside, and you're like, why are they walking around outside? Like, what are they doing?
It's called 90210.
It's like, how do they... What do you mean they get to go outside? Like, we never got to go outside. Like, McQuantico High School was a prison.
Yeah. No, I know. It's Wisconsin. Okay, we're getting bitter now.
We're getting bitter about the weather, and it's summertime, so we shouldn't be bitter because it's a little chilly.
Just because I had to bring my plants in last night.
I heard it's going to be nice for Bratfest this weekend.
19th. Oh, yeah. Okay.
But we'll make sure we talk about Bratfest in a minute.
Yes, the Festival of Bratwurst. Okay. So Hollywood and Highland, where the mall is, and the Kodak Theater, and isn't that American Idol or one of those shows?
That's right, American Idol. When they say you're going to Hollywood on American Idol,
that's the theater.
You go there, and you go to that hotel, and that's where they had a lot of the auditions and stuff like that. So let's see what I don't even remember what I said when I was there. So let's take a listen.
All right, uncensored. Here we go, folks.
All right, well, this stop on the Ghosts of Hollywood Boulevard is at Hollywood and Highland, and it is the site of the old Hollywood Hotel. Right now at Hollywood and Highland, it's a huge mall. It's also adjacent to the Lowe's Hollywood Hotel, and that used to be the Renaissance, and so that's where on American Idol, when people would say, you're going to Hollywood, that's where they'd all be actually going to the Renaissance Hotel, and that's where they would do all the stuff in LA after the searches on American Idol. But so now it's a massive, there is big Egyptian and Middle Eastern and probably Babylonian symbols that are on the big towers on the multiple levels of Hollywood and Highland. And this is probably the place where most people come to go see the Hollywood sign. You can see it from many of the levels here, and there's a place to take a scenic picture of the Hollywood sign from the Hollywood and Highland Mall. So, what's the haunting here? Well, at the site of the old Hollywood Hotel is where the famous silent screen actor Rudolph Valentino. This is the place that he is reputed to haunt. Now, Rudolph Valentino was born in 1895 in Italy, then came to the United States and became the world's first cinematic heartthrob. So, think about what the Coreys were. Corey Feldman and Corey Haim in the 1980s. Girls loved him. And Rudolph Valentino was the first real cinematic heartthrob. You might picture him as the Sheik with the turban on. Even though he wasn't, Middle Eastern, but he was dark and mysterious and Italian. And he died from complications of appendicitis very early on, 1926. That's even before the Oscars, was 1926. So that's when Rudolph Valentino died very young, 31 years old, and a life not quite finished. The site of the Hollywood Hotel, which is here at Hollywood Highland, was the place that he haunted, and people said that they saw the Sheik wandering through the hotel at different times. But today, I'm on a sunny day. I'm walking through the middle of it. I'm looking at the palm trees and a big sign for Jurassic World with Chris Pratt on it. And the Cabo Wabo Cantina, Hot Topic. There's a Hard Rock. This is not quite the spooky place that the Hollywood Hotel might be. But this is one of the locations on the Ghosts of Hollywood Boulevard.
Yeah, so Rudolph Valentino, like, he's a name that some people might know and most probably don't, because it's been, 90 years since he was a star.
Wow.
But I thought it was fun. Number one, it's just such an interesting place because of the imagery of the mall, and then the idea that it used to be a hotel there and stuff like that, and that's where Rudolph Valentino still shows up.
That's
and
cool.
Right down from Hollywood and Highland is, of course, Grauman's Chinese Theater.
Oh yeah,
world famous. Now, we were there, Wendy. I went. We should tell people that this is a podcast you're going to want to look at the show notes for, because I've got pictures of the places that we went. And then
I was going to say, I know I have pictures from there because I think that was the first time I had actually visited it. And
Okay.
so it was extra fun. I was kind of the stereotypical tourist getting all the pictures,
And I've got like a picture, like us and like Andy Cohen. We're putting our hands in the Star Trek,
Yep.
like all the Star Trek handprints.
Right. That's fun.
And so I think those are the ones we'll put up in the show notes and stuff for everybody to check out. But Grauman's Chinese is a famous place. I've got another ghost story for us after we listen to the one that I heard about when I was there. And here's a little setup introduction. Now, when you're walking down this area, you have people dressed like, it's kind of like
Mario
Times
and
Square.
Luigi and like
Yeah, there's Batman,
Pokemon and
Batman and superheroes.
Iron Man.
Yeah, and everybody dressed up like, superhero to get your picture taken with a star. There's a Marilyn Monroe, and everybody's dressed up like a star to get your picture taken with them.
So you leave a tip, and a lot of people earn their money that way.
That's right, and that's how these starving actors keep going.
That's right.
So let's see what I was doing at the Grauman's Chinese Theater, shall we?
Oh goodness! Now I'm curious. Yes, let's.
Okay, and in Tourist Central is Grauman's Chinese Theater. That's the place where everybody puts down their handprints in front of the theater. And, well, it's great. I mean, you watch Spider-Man and Batman. I'm watching the entire Avengers hang out and try to get their pictures taken with people. But that's not as good as before when I saw Freddy Krueger, Wolverine, and Frankenfurter from Rocky Horror Picture Show hanging out trying to get their pictures taken, and that was hilarious. So, the ghost story about Grauman's Chinese Theater is based on a character actor named Victor Killian, who lived about 10 minutes away from here, and he was murdered in his home. And so he is still said to roam the grounds of the Chinese theater looking for his murderer. I saw a lot of old guys out here. None of them seemed vengeful. Most of them just seemed lost.
So there's a vengeful ghost roaming Grauman's Chinese Theater.
Wow, that's kind of creepy.
Yeah. And then there's another story that we'll link to. And it's about how this guy was getting a private tour of Grauman's Chinese in 1992. And he said, I'll quote him, "Just as I arrived, our guide out of the blue said this place is so haunted. And where I had stood, a section of the heavy ceiling to floor drape was violently shaking. We could see the impressions of unseen hands in the velvet as it jerked back and forth hard. We stared in silence until I stammered the classic phrase, 'Do you see what I see?' And all 5 of us said yes. I felt tremendous anger from the shaking, that someone was telling me I'd invaded his territory. It was meant to frighten me. It did. And I ran for the lobby."
Oh man, I love the imagery of the velvet getting crushed with handprints in it. That's
right,
crazy.
somebody's coming. And then...
That's cool, and I have goosebumps right now too.
And so he was hoping it was the ghost of Sid Grauman, the guy that developed the theater back in the 1920s. And
Why would he be angry though?
I don't know. He asked the employee about it, and the employee said, "Oh, you mean Fritz?" Fritz worked for the theater, and that's the legend that they have, that he hanged himself inside. And that's kind of a classic story about people that, working in theater, somebody hanged themselves inside the theater.
I mean, yeah, because that seems like a legend that could easily be confirmed or refuted, right? I mean,
right. I mean, they have that about
evidence somewhere.
The Majestic in Madison has a guy that hanged himself inside the theater. And so that is a popular story, but that's one of the tales that they tell at Grauman's Chinese Theater, and that's where I visited. So,
cool.
Just a block down from Grauman's Chinese is the Hollywood Roosevelt Hotel. And we've been to the Hollywood Roosevelt, Wendy.
Yes, we have. I recall. I do recall. You had a fun experience there in the men's room, didn't you?
Yeah, no, in the men's room. Okay. So just to set
okay, that sounded weird. I'm sorry.
I had a weird experience in the men's room. No, it wasn't like at an airport or something. No, it was I was just going to the bathroom, and I walk into the bathroom, and there's a guy sitting at the sink, and he does this like gigantic rail of cocaine, he's like, "Ugh," and then he puts his face under the sink and starts slapping his sides of his, he's like, yeah.
It's so stereotypical Los Angeles. Like, although I would have guessed maybe a couple decades ago.
Right. And this,
hey,
yeah,
maybe he was a ghost.
Right.
The ghost of 80s coke snorters past. I don't know.
The ghost of cokeheads past. That was the story of that Charles Dickens didn't include in the Christmas Carol. He's like, well, I was going to have the ghost of cokeheads past, but it just didn't work in the story. Okay, and so this one's a little more quiet because I was inside at the where they have the big chandelier, and I'll put up a picture of the big chandelier that I took.
That place is pretty impressive, actually. It's beautiful.
Yeah, and it's dark and it's weird and it's fun. So let's take a listen.
Okay, here we go.
So now we've come to the Roosevelt Hotel, which is unusual on the Hollywood Boulevard just because it looks so old, an old sign. It looks like it could have came out of a classic Hollywood movie as compared to everything else on the street, which, I mean, is new and all, tourist-centered and neon and flashy and everything like that. Here you have just a big ancient-looking building in the middle of all this stuff. And when you go in, it's classier. It's elegant. It's completely dark. I mean, you walk in the hotel and it can be, noon and completely lit up and beautiful outside. And then when you walk in, it's, it's like walking into a haunted house because it's pretty dark. You walk up to the main area to hang out and the bar. And there's a gorgeous chandelier and places to sit down and a little fountain. And it just looks really classy. It looks like the kind of place they'd shoot a movie in the 1950s. But the 1950s are where our most famous ghost stories come from. So in this place, you have rumored to be the ghost of Marilyn Monroe, who would stay in a poolside suite, number 1200. And people say they could see Marilyn in a full-length mirror. And they would be in that room, and sometimes she would appear in the mirror to them. Well, they moved that mirror down to the lower level, and I wasn't able to find it when I was walking around the place. But the other ghost that people say they see at the Hollywood Roosevelt is of someone who did work with Marilyn Monroe, Montgomery Clift. He worked with her on her last movie, The Misfits, and she famously said there's only one person who's more screwed up than I am, and that's Montgomery Clift. After a car accident in 1956, he needed to have plastic surgery. He was a heartthrob and everything like that. But to get over what happened after his car accident, alcohol and painkillers. The deadly duo. I mean, he started to get into it and slowly just kind of wasted his life away. But before the accident, he stayed at the Hollywood Roosevelt and studied all of his lines for From Here to Eternity, that famous movie, if you've ever seen that Burt Lancaster making out on the beach in Hawaii. It's, a beautiful scene. It's famous and something they show in a lot of retrospectives and things like that. That's From Here to Eternity, a World War II movie. Great film. And while he was preparing for that, he had lived at the Roosevelt Hotel for 3 months. And room 928 on the 9th floor, people say they've seen him pacing around, playing a trumpet, and trying to learn his lines. So if you're ever there on the 9th floor and you see a man trying to learn his lines, that's Montgomery Clift, they say. Also, there's supposed to be a cold spot in the ballroom, and that's where the first Academy Awards took place. But the Hollywood Roosevelt it's a great place to visit for a drink if you visit, because it's completely different than anywhere else in its area on Hollywood Boulevard, and that's what makes it kind of special and kind of fun.
And we did have a drink there. We had a drink there with some friends of ours from out west.
Yes, we did.
And it was quite charming. I have to say, it was very elegant, and it just kind of took you back to those days, the Marilyn Monroe,
It seems glamorous instead of flashy.
Guys wearing suits and drinking martinis and that type of environment, it's fun. It's fun to be in that because it's rare nowadays.
Yeah, so the Hollywood Roosevelt's a cool place, so stop in there when you have a drink when you go by. And as far as the main touristy area, that kind of is the end of the ghost stories in that. And you got to go down a little ways to get to the next one. And that's actually near where I stayed, on Hollywood and Western, which is where I stayed in that area this weekend. And so I'm going to post some pictures. So on Friday, I asked the girl at the front, I was like, hey, I got to go for a 6-mile run today. Where should I go? So on Friday, she's like, well, just go up the street. Griffith Park is right there. And I'm like, great. So I just start running and don't realize that it's a gigantic hill. You run up the hill, you can see the Hollywood.
The observatory has to be up high.
Yes,
right?
And it is up high, very high.
I've heard it's pretty awesome too.
It is, and so I ran all the way up there, and we have the pictures and the show notes and stuff. And I didn't know it at the time, but Griffith Park is a haunted place as well. So the guy that gave it its namesake, Griffith J. Griffith, which his parents were obviously very original in naming their child, he gave Los Angeles the land the park that sits on, and he gave him the money to build the Griffith Observatory. But he was also a drunk that shot his wife.
Oh.
And so, yeah, he did
What the?
Yeah, he did a couple of years in prison for that. Jeez. And, but before that, the land was supposedly cursed. It was owned by a man named Don Antonio Feliz, who was supposed to bequeath the park to his niece, Donna Petronia, but he gave it to another man instead. So she cursed the park, and it's said that
Hex on you.
Yep, and her curse resulted in cattle dying and crops being destroyed by fire, and then the land was eventually sold to Griffith, who gave it to the city. And people say they can see her ghost haunting the park. But
hell hath no fury.
Right, like a niece scorned.
Yeah.
And so, one of the legends is about Picnic Table 29. Two young lovers, Rand Garrett and Nancy Jansen, and they were doing what lovers like to do on top of a picnic table on Halloween 1976. So that's right before I was born. So that's exciting. They probably were celebrating that I was coming back. I was coming in. And,
yeah, I'm sure.
But they were on top of the picnic table getting it on, and then a tree fell over and killed them.
Oh, what? Well, I guess if you gotta go.
Yep. So
at least you're having fun when it happens.
Numerous people reported spooky happenings by that area, particularly when anyone tries to remove the tree, which still sits on the picnic table to this day. And
like the fallen down tree is still there?
Yeah, they say the tree is still there. I didn't see picnic table.
Really?
I was running around and I didn't see picnic table 29, but I did see a bunch of picnic tables and there was some trees down. I don't know if any of them.
Because this is like 40 years ago.
Right. So it seems to me like they probably would remove the tree unless it was too spooky when they tried to remove it.
Okay, fair enough. Good point.
And also, people say they seen the ghost of Peg Entwistle, who was an actress.
I've heard of her.
she killed herself by jumping from the Hollywood sign when she was only 24. And she left behind a note in her purse that read, "I am afraid. I am a coward. I am sorry for everything. If I had done this a long time ago, it would have saved a lot of pain."
Oh, that just makes me want to weep. That's horrible. That's really tragic.
Yes. So Peg Entwistle killing herself, people say that they still see her wandering around near the Hollywood sign, Griffith Park. And anyway, I took a nice run through there. The scariest thing about my run was the hills. I did not realize there'd be so many hills. So that was the scariest thing for me.
I'm glad the ghosts of Hollywood didn't sabotage your 20-mile run.
Yeah. And so, I mean, the last stop on my Friday tour of Hollywood Boulevard, I went out with a friend of ours. I had a dinner and a couple of drinks with a friend of ours who shall not be named in case this is incriminating for him. But we were talking, we were just hanging out, having dinner, and we were talking. He's like, "Hey, that Seventh Veil place that they talk about in Motley Crue's Girls, Girls, Girls is right down the street." And I'm like, "What?" And I'm like, "Well, I got to visit that because Motley Crue destination." When I was in Paris, I made sure I got my picture taken in front of the Crazy Horse.
Nice.
So, no, we went out and we checked out the Seventh Veil, which I discovered is the world's most disgusting strip club. It is horrible.
You've been to enough to know to superlative that place.
I've been to enough bachelor parties in enough, like crap towns and
in
stuff
enough
like
disgusting strip clubs
to know that this place takes the record for a gentleman's club that was just so disgusting. So
I'm not going to argue.
Urban legend holds that the neon sign blinking outside the Seventh Veil on Sunset served as the inspiration for the Motley Crue song "Girls, Girls, Girls," and history tells us that parts of the music video were filmed there. But when you get there, it's just skeezy. Like
That's nasty.
Yeah, it wasn't classy at all. Like it's not. I mean, yeah, I'm just not going to recommend it to anybody.
Okay.
It wasn't a place I want to spend a lot of time. The Seventh
Alrighty
Veil,
then.
like,
And
they play
how does
girls.
this-
They play girls all the time.
Which is great, but how does this relate into the paranormal? I'm just curious.
With just the name Seventh
Or
Veil.
is this just a pop culture thing?
Yeah, it's kind of a pop culture thing. But the term "the Seventh Veil" not only comes from an Oscar-winning movie from the 1940s called "The Seventh Veil."
Okay.
It's also a biblical reference. And so
really?
it's probably one of the few gentlemen's entertainment establishments to have such a pedigree. Oscar Wilde, who wrote The Picture of Dorian Gray.
Yes, one of the creepiest stories I've ever read.
Yeah, as well as The Canterville Ghost. So he himself is no stranger to paranormal fiction. He wrote a play called Salome. And the story about Salome is that King Herod asked her to perform a dance at his wedding when he wed her mother. And he convinced her that for the dance, she should ask for John the Baptist's head. Now, yeah, King Herod was like the guy that was in charge of Galilee. He was like one of the Roman governors of the area. And he hated John the Baptist because John the Baptist was a religious muckraker in his area. And John the Baptist didn't like the fact that King Herod was marrying his half-brother's wife, or former wife. And so King Herod arrested him and then cut his head off. And there's a ton of medieval pictures of John the Baptist's head on a plate and stuff like that. So Oscar Wilde introduced the concept of the Seventh Veil into the story because he had Salome perform something called the Dance of the Seven Veils. And that dance, the name of her dance wasn't mentioned in any story, but it's based on Middle Eastern dances where the girls had veils. And if we go back to the Oriental Theater and also the Egyptian Theater, which is on Hollywood Boulevard.
Oh, I remember that place. Yeah.
Yeah, it's right next to the Pig and Whistle where we played. And so in the
That's right.
So in the late 19th century and early 20th century, they called it Orientalism. Was just a really popular thing. I mean, the Egyptian theater was being built before they actually found King Tut's tomb. So he was trying to cash in on like the excitement of Egyptology and stuff like that, and that mysteriousness of the Orient.
That's very interesting, because I kind of wondered, when I saw that shopping mall with the big, like, the Sphinx and the...
Right, what's all the Egypt stuff doing here? Like this,
it just seems
thousands of miles away.
Right, exactly. And then, like you said, the Egyptian theater and the Oriental theater and all those. So this is all coming together for me now. But I mean, the strip club,
right?
As you said, the world's most disgusting strip club.
Yeah, the Seventh Veil is the same kind of
ties into that.
So that entire area, when they were building this area of Hollywood, when they were creating the buildings and creating all of these famous places, what they were doing was just trying to cash in on this craze of Orientalism and mysteriousness in the early 20th century. And that's why they designed the buildings like that. So that's why there's an Oriental theater on Hollywood Boulevard, an Egyptian theater on Hollywood Boulevard. So that's where it all kind of comes together in the Ghosts of Hollywood Boulevard.
Indeed. So I'm dying to know.
Yes.
When you were at all these places, did you feel anything weird? You said you didn't see anything unusual, but did you have any kind of, I don't know, like intuition or feeling of like, oh, maybe there's some other kinds of people on the other side of the...
Sure. Did I feel anything? Well, the Roosevelt Hotel gives you that feeling. Gives you a feeling of otherness.
I'll say I do recall. I mean, even just thinking about it now, and that was what 3-4 years ago.
2 years
ago. Only 2? Oh,
only 2.
Well, feels like longer ago, but I still remember. I mean, even after a few cocktails,
right.
I still clearly remember that very like vintage kind of. Just a feeling of lots has gone on here,
The sense that you're going into another time, I think is the best way to put it. It's like walking into a time machine. And
that's a neat and unique kind of feeling to get nowadays, especially because there's so many places have been redone and rebuilt over and remade to match the modern time. So it's neat to walk into one of those old kind of vintage places and to get that feeling of, I could see, I kind of feel what it felt like to be like one of those movie stars back in the 50s or whatever. And here with my martini and...
Right. All dressed up and everybody's, looking at each other and smoking unfiltered cigarettes or through a holder or something like that. Right. And, and I didn't get that feeling, but one of the feelings I did get was, the people around you when you're there, like there's the tourists and stuff like that, but then there's everybody's working. There's the wait staff and it's the most beautiful wait staff on the planet. And,
of course.
And it's because everybody's going for something. Everybody is, they want to be famous. They want to be in the movies. They want to be in music. They want to, they want a little piece of that glamour.
They're trying, and they're trying hard in an industry that's the most competitive, difficult, or one of the most, in the
competitive
world,
world
and difficult industries in the world. So it's very commendable, or very, I guess, I don't know, maybe not commendable.
And I think it's fun to be around so many people who are going for it.
Yeah.
And I think that the song this week kind of brings that in. And I thought of this song when I was thinking about, American Idol, and you're going to Hollywood and all that kind of stuff. And this song is about like an average person who isn't really going for it with their life, but every weekend they're trying to get their little place in the spotlight.
Okay, wait, Mike. I know you're going for it, but before you do it,
yes,
I just have to stop you because I have to say, congratulations. This is our 40th episode.
Hey, 40. So
you know what that means?
No.
Well, I don't have any cake or champagne or anything like that, but I can tell you, and maybe you can even tell me where the show notes are for this, because I know everyone's going to want to check out those links and those pictures you have, right?
They're going to. Yes, they are. And that's going to be at othersidepodcast.com/Fody.
Right. And now the song, which will also be at that link, and you can download it and you can listen to it, and you can contact us and let us know what you think about it. But the song is called what?
Spotlight.
supposed to do. She never cried or complained, but she never knew where she's going to. If this was right, why was it so mundane? Looking back was a bad dream of near misses and lost opportunities. But when she picks up that mic at Friday karaoke, she's finally who she wants to be. It's Whitney Houston or Mariah Carey, and not the drama of her life. An American Idol that might be temporary. She just wants a little place in the spotlight. She always did what she was told to. Please and thank you, yes sir and no ma'am. But no one cared what she was going through. Work at this, study that, marry him and don't look back. Cause what she saw was a bad dream of near misses and lost opportunities. But when she picks up that mic at Friday karaoke, she's finally who she wants to be. It's Whitney Houston or Mariah Carey, and not the drama of her life. An American Idol that might be temporary. She just wants a little place in the spotlight. Looking back was a bad dream of near misses and lost opportunities. But when she picks up that mic at Friday karaoke, she's finally who she wants to be. It's Whitney Houston or Mariah Carey, but not the drama of her life. An American Idol that might be temporary. She just wants a little place as Whitney Houston or Mariah Carey, but not the drama of her life. An American Idol that might be temporary. She just wants a little place in the spotlight.
Thank you for listening to today's episode. You can find us online at othersidepodcast.com. Until next time, see you on the other side.
It was meant to frighten me. It did.
Whoa.